spot.
All right, guys, welcome to our noon Zoom here with Dr. Doug, who is on the phone today, traveling with us. But you've got myself, Alan Newell, Paul Capozio here today, guys. We're so excited for this. Now, Paul was about to go into some massive wisdom here, so I'm passing him the mic to start up here.
All right, it's really more about mindset and how we all think. So Alan was just really dropped some really great pearls about that. If you're in, at a church service and, you're all meeting afterwards for coffee and everybody talks about what they got out of the pastor's sermon and everybody got something a little different. It reminded me of an exercise I do at live events where I tell everybody, look, everybody listen up real quick. And I want you to just get ready to unmute your mics. But I'm going to say a word, a single word, and I want you to tell me the first thing that goes into your head. And that word is dog, D-O-G. So Whitney, do me a favor, unmute. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I said the word dog? First word.
Annoying.
Annoying.
I'm
Are you talking about
sorry.
me again, or we're back to the dog?
Just the dog. Only
Good.
the dog.
Danny Liccardi, real quick. First word that comes to your mind when I said the word dog.
Mickey.
Mickey. What
Yeah.
can you elaborate on that? I didn't expect this to go this long, but go ahead. Everybody's like,
it's my dog, and he's a pain in the ass.
He's a pain. Okay, so we have a common theme.
No, because he's so smart. Don't get me wrong; he's a great dog. I'm just saying that the first thought after dog is Mickey, and then tell you about him. So there you go.
And then annoying.
Yeah, he can be annoying. Yes.
I think the words Danny used were pain in the ass. Brenda, tell me what comes to mind when you hear the word dog. Perfect. No, I'm kidding. You got to unmute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know you was talking to me. Allergies.
Sure. Allergies.
Oh.
All right. I'm sensing a negative tone here. We're going to have to change the vibration in this room, and we'll do that next. And I think Angel could do a good job. Skoda, one more. We're going to do one more. The word dog. What comes to mind? Unmute and let us know.
Bark.
Okay. All right. Do we want to take one more? Mary Kay, do you want to do one real quick? Just tell me what comes to mind.
Well, I was going to say bark. The other thing comes Iris, which is a dog's name that annoys me.
All right, I will tell you this. I've been doing this exercise for probably 20 years, and this is the most unique responses. I've usually gotten dog spelled backwards. I've gotten best friend. I've gotten so many. But here's the thing the point I'm trying to make, and I think it's the point Alan was trying to make. When we can really have a different response and a different feeling about a single word, imagine when you're giving somebody a whole sentence or a whole pitch. You have no clue what they're feeling, what they're thinking on the other side. So if a single word could elicit such different responses, imagine when you're saying to everybody, let me tell you about a great opportunity, or I'm looking for 10 people, or whatever your pitch is. And we want to, in the future, Angel and I were talking about getting out of that typical, I could smell you a mile away network marketing pitch. We want to try to change the business. We want to try to change what you're using for your attraction marketing techniques, and we'll get there. But here's what I want to tell you. Understand that what you're intending to project to them is not what they're hearing, and it's not your fault. If a pastor who's a professional speaker and an empowering person could have the same reaction that Alan talked about, and I could give you a single word as simple as the word dog and elicit so many different responses. What did we learn? We learned that it's more our personal emotional response that's telling us what we're hearing, right? Whitney, I think, to be honest with you, when you said annoying was actually a perfect response for this exercise because it elicited that. Imagine if someone says network marketing and someone's going to say pyramid scheme or scam. It's their emotion. It's how you feel. I'm sure there are dog lovers that would literally trying to dox you right now, find out where you live, what your address is, and put it on the internet and said, go after this woman. She's a cat lover. So understand that when we're talking to people, how they're thinking and where their emotions are at the moment is going to generate the response you get. So when you get that no, in most cases has nothing to do with you or what you just said. It's the response that it elicited in them. All right, Angel, I'm sorry to go off track. But she's still she's still texting. She's still reaching out to people.
I am. I'm posting on my story.
Listen, last week we had 3 pages of people on this call, and now we got 1 page. So either people are buying turkeys or they're doing something else.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I hope you like that exercise. Feel free to use it because it will help you coach your teams onto, when they're giving their messaging and when sometimes too much is way too much. Angel,
And
back to you.
we're over on page 2 now, Paul. So they're still coming in.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I love
Thank
that. And
God.
I want to say, like, Lisa Mendez is here today, guys. Lisa and I connected on Instagram. We've been friends for a long time. I've been sharing the noon Zoom. She's here today. She actually came on to one of my company presentations the other day. She got a free product. Like, this is all about connection and friendship, right? It's like, who can you reach out to right now and say, hey, come over to this noon Zoom. I know you're in the same space. I know you love network marketing. I know you're growing your home business. This is literally the best mastermind that probably exists for anybody to plug into for FREE, right? I want to say hello to Roland Manny. He comes in with a strong presence, and I like your picture, Roland. So I don't know if you're here with Alan or who you've come in with, but it's so great to have you. I like your energy in your picture. All right, guys. So we're going to go into the presentation today. So last week we talked about building grit and what that looks like. And I had shared, this was a speech I had given on stage 2 weeks ago now on Saturday. And I wanted to go deeper into it. I wanted to really like bring in people like Alan and Dr. Doug and Paul who can come in and just share their wisdom on what I had shared, because I love the conversation of grit, because I don't think we stop and think about the actual power of what we go through in this profession. Those of us who have stuck it out, those of us who have been here for a while, or those of you who are maybe just new or maybe just getting back into it and realizing there's a different essence to us. We are, you may not be in the 1% of earners yet, but you're in the 1% of thinkers, because you've decided to do something for yourself that goes against the norm. So I'm going to go into a screen share here. So the topic we had done, I'm just going to move things around so I can actually see. And I got to move this. So the topic we had done was building grit to become bulletproof in the marketplace. And we actually have a bonus slide that I added in after talking with Paul here on a couple of things. He told me my stuff wasn't good enough and I had to do better. So just kidding. He gave me some content which really added to what we were doing. So it's really, really good. So last week we went through leaving the past in the past. If you guys need the recording, I have it. I can send it to you. You don't want to miss out on it. It was massive conversation. And the reason we have a part 2 is because we went so long in the first one. So we talked about building grit in your business and your mindset. And then we also talked about how to develop unstoppable, unnegotiable action. So our next step in coming in here, and we were talking about, so if we go back here, when we got into this conversation, it was building grit in your business and your mindset. We were starting to go through 4 steps in doing that. So in going forward, number 3 is decide who you are and where you're going. And a lot of us can say, oh, I've made that decision. I know who I am. Do you really, truly know who you are? Who are you speaking to every single day? If you're using social media, what is your content? Who is your niche category? What's your avatar? What's your perfect customer? What's your perfect business builder? What is your ideal person that you'd love to see coming into your business every single day? The other day, I said to Paul, I have 2 people that I'm working with, and I just want to keep on bringing in those 2 kind of people, right? And so know who you want to be attracting. God has given you amazing talents. What are yours, and are you using them? And I did an exercise at the event with the audience, and I want to do it with you guys too. And I'm going to count back from 3, and I want you to immediately in your head think of the one talent that you know that God has given you. So 3, 2, 1. And all of us should have at least one thing we thought of right there. And are you using that talent? If you know that God has given that to you, if you know that that's something that's unique about you that you could be using, that maybe it's a little different and maybe you're not comfortable with doing it, but are you using it? Because if you know it comes from God and you know it's something about you that makes you unique, I can't admit Nancy, guys, if somebody can, my mouse won't go up there. If you know that's your talent, why aren't you using it? And why aren't you perfecting it? And why aren't you making it something that actually makes you stand out? When I have people come into my team and they say, what strategies should I do? And how do I do this like you? And how do I do this like you? My question to them is, what do you actually like to do? What do you want to get up every single morning and actually do for your business? What are you good at? Who do you like to talk to? What are ways you think you would like to build? Because that's what people are going to take action in, right? If I tell somebody to go and duplicate what I do or what Paul does or what somebody else does, they are not going to do it if it's not their talent. They're not going to do it if it's not something that makes them jump out of bed and excited to actually do that. So make sure, and when you're bringing people into your team as a leader and as people on this call, because we are leaders and we are leading teams, know your team's talents. Make sure this is something you're identifying in them. Hey, Paul, what are you really good at? Right? Paul's got the most generous heart, but he's really good at leading people. Right. So he's got one side to him, but I know that if I need a leader, I'm going to Paul. I know if I need somebody to get on a phone call and match an energy of a person, I'm going to Paul. Right. I know that's his talent. So you have been called into your business and you've been called to lead a team, whether or not you have one person, 0 people, or, you're Alan and you've got how many auto ships, 90,000, 400,000 people in your organization, anywhere in between. You have been called into this. It's not by accident that you step into network marketing, because you can see the personalities that come into it. You can see the people that God brings into it, and you know that this isn't an accident. So I really challenge you today to take the limits off God and stop holding him back. He wants to release you into a flow of strategy and building in your business. He wants to do that for you. When I was on stage, I said, appoint God the CEO of your business. He's your upline. You've got a personal upline, but is God your actual upline? Are you strategizing every single day and waking up and saying, hey, what are we doing today? Right-hand man, pilot of my business. What are we doing? How are we doing this? Take the limits off him. Stop trying to control what's going on, because chances are, you have a talent, you're trying to use it, but you're also trying to control the results of that talent and what you're doing, or you're trying to do things that don't fit in with your talent and you're trying to control results from that. So take the limits off him today. If there's one thing you decide to do, write it at the top of your page if you're taking notes. I'm taking the limits off God now today. There are no limits. I'm letting him have free will over what he wants to do. Your belief and your actions need to line up with those expectations that you have. So if you expect to be at a certain rank in your company, if you expect you're going to the top, if you expect you're going to have an actual certain income and you're going to be making this money and you're retiring your husband and you're taking your kids on vacation, or you're just retiring yourself and you're living this lifestyle and you're starting a charity, is your belief and your actions right now, could you say that these are my expectations and what I'm doing today lines up with what my expectations are? And if they don't, there's some serious change and action that needs to start happening. Go back to the goal webinar that we had done on the noon Zoom here. That was such a great one. Establishing your goals, setting your goals. Go back to that, especially being in this last of the fourth quarter here in the year. This is a perfect time to really get real with yourself and say, what am I doing next year that's different? Because if I didn't get the results that match up with my expectations this year, what's going to be different next year? So really start to do that. And then how can you fail? And we're going to go into that a little bit more on the next slide, but how can you fail? Knowing all of this, everything that's written on this screen, taking the limits off God, knowing that your actions and your beliefs just have to match up with your expectations. How can you possibly fail? And isn't that a freeing feeling in what we're doing, that there is no failure? So I'll pass it to you, Paul, first, and then to you, Alan, to kind of talk on this. I don't know if Doug can share today, but I'll ask him in a bit here if he can add in as well.
I just want to bring my slide back up because I really want to cover points. And I'm going to take the last two, because I think managing expectation is where a lot of you have trouble, because I think you don't know what to expect. And many of new people come into network marketing. And when I say new, I'm talking about pre your explosion, because I've never met anyone, when I talk to a lot of big leaders that have been in the industry for a long time, they'll talk about that 7-year phenomenon where, like, it was my 7th year. I just met with a guy from Market America down in Florida. We had a long 4-hour meeting and talking about possibly working together and sharing information. And I think his expectation after all these years is still needed to be managed. How about somebody who's been in the business for 10 years and still really expecting too much? So when you don't know what to expect, you're going to create yourself up for failure. You're going to, because what are you gauging your expectations against? So one of the best things you can do for people is to help them manage their expectations about this business, because then you'll have zero failure. right? Also, no one tells anyone in this business, and if you do, you're out of your mind, to quit their job or stop their other source of income, but how to integrate this and add this into their lifestyle, right? Until they add more and more time. I talk about my 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night. I started building the business. And as I got results, I started adding more and more time until it became not only full-time, but I literally traveled the world. Like I just got back yesterday from Florida. I'm on a plane again tomorrow morning to North Carolina. So you'll see that it becomes a passion and an obsession with you, but I don't have any expectations other than what am I going to do today? Then I can't fail, right? I can't fail. Now, it becomes less risky for someone in the beginning of this business, because I hate when people say, oh, I tried network marketing, I lost so much money. That's physically impossible with the right upline, okay? What are you talking about? You lost thousands of dollars. In fact, most people in this industry should be taking, even with zero income, taking at least $2,400 off their taxes because they've started a home-based business. So when we get back to the God aspect, and I'm going to wrap it up now, but please manage people's expectations. Let them know to expect a little bit, and then whatever they get is going to be more. When people are managing their expectations, don't talk millions of dollars. Don't talk six figures. Talk about outpacing inflation. Then they'll figure it out. You show them how to make $100 a week, they'll figure out how to make two. Then I want to tell you about soulful synchronicity. Start getting that emotion, start being emotionally connected to your people versus trying to be this dictator leader and going to give them all of this wisdom, and you're going to make all of these notes today on this call, and you're going to come out like a house of fire. In fact, some of you come here to get your information so then you could take it back and share it instead of bringing your teams on here to share it together with the total energy. You got to get out of your own way sometimes to do that. But that soulful synchronicity has to be, and guys, if God is troubling you or Jesus is troubling you, then tie in universe, because that's what I used to do until Dr. Doug said to me, okay, well, Paul, but who created the universe? Okay, Paul, well, who is going to help, until I said, oh my God, I accepted it. So do whatever it takes for you to get by, but start having soulful synchronicity. Acknowledge the synchronicity emotionally you have with your people. Guide them on their journey. Don't tell them what to do. Notice the signs of their challenges. Figure out who thinks dogs are annoying or who thinks dogs are your next best friend, and work with them where they are. All right, I'll hand it back to you, Angel.
Go ahead, Alan. That was great, Paul. And I love that. And go ahead, Alan, on your thoughts on this slide.
Yeah, that was great, Paul. And let me know where you're going to be in North Carolina. Maybe we can catch up for a
I land in Raleigh, and then I got an event I'm doing for one of my leaders. But yeah, I'll let you know. But I'm in and out unless I decide to stay. They offered me a bunk bed, Alan. How about this? The first time I'm doing an event, I'm speaking at an event, and they said, we got a house on the lake, we're doing an event, and we got a bunk bed for you. And I'm like,
There you go. I got a motorhome I can bring up there. You can stay in.
Yeah. That's hell of a lot better than a bunk bed. I can see my feet hanging off the edge of this bunk bed. I'm 6'2", 260 pounds.
I love what both of you said, Angel and Paul. And it's interesting because when you look at this, when and Denise, who's on here now, Denise and I have been talking about this the past couple of days, because when you talk about the size of our company and the size that I've been blessed with team-wise, and the majority of them customers, there's lots of different people with lots of different talents, you see. And so it's easy for people sometimes to say, well, this person's being successful, do what they're doing. Well, no, that they're not capable of doing that. That's just not their talent. I can tell you that Denise is amazing in front of a camera. She doesn't believe it. I keep telling her that one day we're going to wake up and it's going to say, Good Morning America with Denise Longton, because she's unbelievable in front of a camera and when she's communicating and doing lives. And so then if you look in Victoria is an internet person. She's on the internet a lot. She likes to be on there. She likes to post. She likes to comment. We were just talking about some of the stuff that you're posting out there. So each person has their own talents. And as Paul mentioned, guide them and direct them and give them some focus and direction and teach them how to use their talents. Their talents don't match yours. Just like the word, when you said dog, we got how many different responses. And their talents may be different than your talents. So you have to be able to figure out a way to assist them, give them the tools to use, but they've got to take that tool and they've got to use it in a way that fits their God-given talents. And because if they're trying to do things that they're not comfortable with, If they're trying to do things that they're not good at, then they're going to struggle and they're going to leave. Simple as that. Back to you, Angel.
That is so true. Absolutely. And I love that. And that is exactly how a leader builds and works with their people. And no matter how big the organization, you are able to have that one-on-one knowledge of those people, right? That one-on-one, everybody's important. So many leaders come in and build and take off and have no clue what's going on. And so being that leader that does things differently is so huge. We're going to go on to the next slide here. So number 4 is become the David to your Goliath. We talked about this a few weeks ago on one of the calls when Dr. Doug was on. And unfortunately, our leader here, Dr. Doug, is traveling and isn't able to chime in on conversation today, but he is listening. So hello, Dr. Doug, we miss you. And this really, guys, if I go back to that other slide where I said, how can you fail? I bet you almost everybody had one teeny tiny little thought. What if? What if it doesn't work? What if I can't talk to the right people? What if I can't do this? How can you fail? If I say to you, how can you fail right now? You might have an answer. Chances are you're going to have a little bit of an answer because there's a little bit of a doubt. So your doubts, that's your Goliath. That's why every single day when you have those little teeny tiny thoughts, what if I don't? You become the David to your Goliath. You're slingshotting those puppies right out of there. You're not allowing those thoughts to even have a presence in your mind. This comes against your doubts, your excuses, why you can't. How many excuses would you have this week if you were real with yourself about why you didn't or why you couldn't, or what you're going to do next week? How many are already writing out their list for next week because you're moving over the actions over to next week? Your why it might not, why it hasn't yet, your it's coming. And it's great to anticipate and expect, but if you sit in the space of it's coming, it's never going to be here. What are you doing to bridge that gap between now and the it's coming, to take the action to make sure it gets here? Because if you sit in the it's coming and don't do anything to take that action and just come into, trainings and say, okay, this is great, this is filling me. And then you don't go out and you don't take any action, even if it's as simple as Paul said, going out and sharing it with somebody, going out and pouring out that value, being a leader in the profession, and even just doing a little bit of attraction marketing and letting people see that you are participating in something that's bettering you, because that's what people need right now. So many people don't have hope. So many people aren't bettering themselves. Everybody's stuck in a cyclical, habitual pattern of strife and struggle and habits and depression and anxiety. And we see it over and over. If you go on social media, we've glorified the bad side of things and nobody's out there doing the positive side of things. And that's what we do here. So if you go out today and you say, I found this one nugget of information, and just like we said, everybody's going to get a different piece. But if you go out and share that and you say, guys, you have to come to this every Friday. I'm getting filled here. This is where leaders get fed. This is a mastermind. What if you shared that and started having people, guess what? People are going to see you as a leader. They're going to be like, oh, wow. Mary Kay is going to that. That's awesome. How does she plug into that? I'm so grateful that I'm connected to Mary Kay so that I can get to go to that mastermind. And annihilate those thoughts and words every single day. Your discipline, we talk about, of course, exercise and eating great and doing your daily actions in the 5/5. In addition to all of those things that you need to be doing every single day is having control of your mind. Every single time those thoughts come in, and we're all going to have those moments where you go into that space and you start to think, oh, is it going to happen for me? It's how much time you've given to that. And you've probably heard that over and over again because there's so many leaders that talk on that. But how much time are you allowing those thoughts to have space in your head? They're going to come. We know that that's just a part of life. How much time are you giving them? If you get so good at there's a thought, boom, it's gone. What am I thinking positive? What am I grateful for? Where am I going? How do I know I'm getting there? Oh my gosh, I've got this great company, this great team, these great people I'm working with. I feel so good. I'm so excited. This is where I'm going. That is what you replace those thoughts with. Every single day. There's not a day you're going to give 24 hours to being in that space at all. And you have to decide today that it no longer exists. It no longer is allowed to be present. We know fear isn't real. And we're going to get into that in the next slide as well. So Alan, I'll go to you first this time. And I'll go to you, Paul. What are your thoughts on this slide?
Well, I think the big thing with this is what people have to realize is in this industry, there's a saying that says different levels, different devils. Okay. And what that means is when you look at people like Paul and Angel and people that have these, that are leaders that have these huge teams and are working with teams, you have to realize something, that we and those leader, everybody on this call and everybody who's looking at this slide is going to have these feelings at times. You see, a big problem with a lot of times is you feel like that you're having doubts, or that you're making excuses, or why it might not work, and you feel like, God, and you feel isolated, like you're the only one that feels that way. No, trust me. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing, what your level is. Everybody has these negative thoughts who creep into their mind. And it's those people who can overcome those thoughts and who can speak positivity, like Angel was just talking about, back into it and say, no, you know, and say, no, this is going to work, and I'm going to be positive, and get those negative thoughts out of my head. And just like you said, speak positivity. Those are the ones who are successful, those who realize that, hey, this it's okay to think that, but I've got to overcome it, and I've got to move forward, because trust me when I say it, every single person on here has doubt, has feelings at certain times in their life and in their business and their career. Don't feel like you're the only one, because you're not. It's 100% of everybody on here. And so don't feel bad about yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just realize that you've got to look. And what David did with Goliath was he said, tell me again what I get if I kill this dude. Tell me again what the reward is. Tell me again what I'm going to receive. Tell me the number of people I'm going to be able to help. This whole army behind me. Tell me that we're going to be free. We're going to not be killed. We're going to have this. I get to live in the castle. I get to do this. I get to do. Oh, remind me again what I get when I succeed with this rock and this slingshot. You see, sometimes we think, oh, well, we don't have the tools. Well, can you imagine how David felt? He tried to put on his brother's armor. It was so big that he couldn't. He said, I can't wear this. It's too big for me. But I got this little rock, little handful of rocks and a slingshot, and that dude over there is laughing at me. But what do I get when I succeed? And that's why the why it might not and why it hasn't yet was, you got to remember what your why is and why you're building this business and what you're looking to accomplish. Angel, you said it. Look at the goal that you've got and remember that, hey, this is nothing more than a Goliath standing in my way. I see it as a Goliath, but God sees it as a simple sling of a slingshot and takes care of it and moves forward. Back to you, Angel.
Yes, I got goosebumps on that. That was awesome, Alan. Go ahead, Paul, your thoughts on this.
Me too. I mean, you know, look, talk about fear, like following Alan on that, you know, you get a little bit of nervousness, but David did have a skill set, right? And he used his basic skills and he took those skills to basically defeat Goliath. Here's what I want to tell you. You need to learn pattern interrupters. So this is a true story. I had a lot of challenges with this when I was working in New York City. I was working on Wall Street. It was a very dog eat dog. Every day someone was looking to not only take your accounts, but to literally put you out of business. So it really was dog eat dog. And when I had all these negative thoughts in my mind, I had this whole thing about listening to your mind's got to be like a screen door, let the thought come in and let it go right out again. That was not a powerful enough image for me, but pattern interrupters were. And I literally used to be in my car and I would beat my horn when a crazy negative thought or a doubt would come into my mind. I'd beat my horn. But doing that in the middle of New York City, thank God I'm 6'2", 260 pounds, because you're going to piss off the guy in front of you. But do you guys remember those Lance Armstrong rubber bracelets? They were like a rubber bracelet, and they had them also for the MIA, you know, missing in action guys. Well, I started wearing one of those, and I used to snap it to the point where it would actually inflict pain on my wrist to stop that negative thought. So I'm not saying you got to beat yourself up, guys, but I was so bad that I needed to physically feel a reaction to stop that mental process. So find a pattern interrupter, pick something. If it's a rubber band around your wrist or like a set of beads or something, but go to that pattern interrupter. So when that thought comes in, allow it to come in, but then interrupt that pattern and stop celebrating your misery. Stop telling everybody about how tough your life is and stop celebrating that. Because we're all looking for, we hear those stories about the person who was homeless and they rose to the top of their network marketing company. And we think that our back has to be truly against the wall. That's not for everybody. My back was not against the wall when I started in network marketing, but you have to find something that's going to give you that kind of motivation. And I do something about, we all have a survival instinct. And I said, you got to get your success instinct as strong as your survival instinct. Why it might not and why it hasn't yet are probably the two biggest things that you're dealing with. You don't know. This is managing expectation. You don't know why it hasn't happened yet or when it's supposed to happen. For many people, it's 7 years. But let me tell you something. If you could have a significant six-figure income 7 years from now, are you willing to stick it out? I'm not going to give it a whole thing about if you knew there was $1 million under a mattress in a hotel and the hotel had 320 rooms, how many mattresses would you flip? That's too easy, okay? And it's too much of a fantasy. But you have to say that everyone is going to, they say the blind squirrel even a blind squirrel could find a nut. To a certain instant, that's what it's going to be. But I really think as you're getting your skill set, you're learning how to talk to people, you're learning how to relax and not vomit over people with commission breath about your business and just start communicating with people. So annihilate those thoughts and words instantly. Have that rubber band, have something. And then there's three things you got to do. Number one, if you want to really make this work, continuous improvement every single day. Something. Do something that's going to give you continuous improvement, that's measurable, even if it's minute. The next thing is you got to build a community, guys. Many of your companies have these communities. We spend a lot of time building a community for people that is supportive. And you're going to have people that are going to come into there and try to destroy it. It's an amazing dynamic when you see it. Protect your community with everything you got. And the last thing is do anything you can to maintain a positive mindset. Those three things: continuous improvement, build a supportive community, and maintain a positive mindset. You must do this. You must create an environment. People say you shouldn't have a TV in your bedroom, or you shouldn't have, there's reasons you create these spaces. Create a space in your business for that. All right, guys.
Yeah, that was so good, Paul. I wrote those down for sure. That like there's so much great stuff in there. And I think that the continuous improvement every single day, guys, what if it was just 1% every single day? 100 days, you're 100% better than you were today. If you just take that extra action. Of course, a lot of us follow Ed Milet. You've maybe listened to his book, the power of one more, all of that, right? But listening to that and hearing that gives you that, like, there's something about it. You listen to it and somebody says, do one more. And you're like, oh, I'll do one more. Or like Paul says, go out and share this. I'm like, yeah, I can get on my social media right now and do what I didn't have time for 5 minutes before this Zoom. I can do this right now. So I love that. And I love, Paul, when you share your success in New York and on Wall Street and all of that, and you're like, I wasn't in that back to the wall situation where I had to build this. But if I can like kind of share a little bit of your vulnerability where you've shared with us on our team that you were a me person and not a we person. And now look at how many lives you've been able to impact and change because of the mindset and success that you already had and being able to bring it into this profession to be able to pour that in, right? So it's like, yeah, you weren't against the wall, but maybe God was doing something through you to be able to also do something in you, right? So it's like we all have a different reason and purpose for what he's doing.
It was just a bad path I was on. I mean, it really was. And it looked from the outside as, we had boats and cars and houses and the whole 9 yards. And when we realized that wasn't what was important, and the biggest satisfaction I've ever gotten is in my network. You heard me last night. We had our 6-year anniversary. New Life, our company's been around for 6 years now, and we're closing in on $1 billion in total sales. And I was speaking about how that whole process that I went through and how I fought network marketing. And it was probably the greatest personal achievement for me. I mean, it's been the pinnacle of my career to help build people, build myself, and build a company, that is really geared to the we. So when people tell you about network marketing and it's a pyramid scheme, and it's all, I don't want to use the word bullshit, but it's bullshit, because this whole business does not build, or it's not created by you not building other people. If it's the only way you're going to build residual income in this business is by really serving other people. It's not BS. It's the only way. I know everybody, and Eric Worre talks about it all the time. He had to rebuild his organization 7 times. I will never rebuild an organization 7 times. If you build it for the people first, okay? If you build it for them first, yes, you're going to have your ups and downs and your challenges, but with each wave of new people who come and go, you're going to build this core of positive people who are going to run with you. And each year, that core gets bigger and bigger and bigger. right? So when you're building your business and you get your first two, and if you're in a binary, one left or one right, or you get your first three across the bottom, if you're in a unilevel, and you do that again and again, and then 3 people leave, and then 2 people leave, give it a year and see how many people you have around you. And if those people around you aren't willing to die with you and for you, and vice versa, that means you're doing something wrong, right? So remember, leadership is really about what your people, how your people are willing to follow. You can really find out the true value of a leader by how his people feel about him or her. Really, that's really the gauge of leadership, is not what you say or not what you read and are repeating to someone. It's about how your team is responding to you as a leader. And sometimes we need to relearn to be a leader, or sometimes we realize that what type of leader we need to be. Thanks, Angel. Sorry,
Yeah.
I know I went long there, but it's
No,
been an
and
emotional
good to-
couple of days for me.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole thing, right? We're all human and have those, and it's what we learn in those emotional days that we know, like, there's more to be poured out, right? Every leader, that's why when you come into these, you hear different things from Alan, you hear different things from Paul, you hear different things from Dr. Doug, because the stuff that you go through as leaders is how you're being built to pour more out. And that's what leadership is. And really just understanding and doing your own personal work, maybe behind the scenes, and pouring that out. So, and I loved when you said, you got to drop the excuses and stop leaning on those and stop speaking them out. And guys, that's why you need to have part 1 of this, because we went really deep into that in part 1. So if you need that, just reach out to me, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and let's get that. I can post it in the Wealthfield group as well for those of you who are in Wealthfield. So this is where Paul said, "Oh, Angel, your stuff's good, but it could be a bit better." So he sent me some information.
I never said that. I just said you might appreciate some of this because it's in your whole grit thing. Because I don't do grit, I eat grits, but I don't. I actually love grit. Okay, wait a second. Are you a grits with butter and salt? Or are you a grits person with sugar? Who does grits?
I don't even know what
I'm a butter and.
is.
You don't know what a grit is, Alan? Would you tell him tell her what a grit is?
Grits is a little white ground up chickpea, and they cook it in a frying pan or bake it in the oven. But it comes out in a dish, and in the South it's real popular. And a lot of people put butter on it and mix it up. Some people put bacon in there too. You can get it. You can get all kind of stuff in your grits in the South. But there are some people who take sugar and put it on there, which makes it almost like a dessert. So
yeah. Look, there are crazy people in the world. I'm a butter and salt guy.
Or is it a biscuit? Like I
thought it was cornmeal. I thought it was like cornmeal.
It's almost like oatmeal.
Yeah,
it would be like
kinda
similar to oatmeal.
Similar.
Yeah,
That's a good. Corn. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We do not have
cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat. There you go.
Oh, we have cream of wheat.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. So if cream of wheat is wheat, cream of rice is rice, and then if you had a corn version, that's grits.
Okay.
There
we go. There's my something learned for the day, guys.
It says here it's made from dent corn. Now, what is dent corn? Maybe it's corn that's been dented when it fell off the stalk. I don't know the answer to that, but there you go.
The corn they stepped on.
Yeah.
Hey, just want to see, guys, we doubled. See, by that little thing in the beginning when we said, hey, get your phones out. Let's get some people on the call. So we got 2 pages of people now. So you could see just a simple command, how you could double your business. So that's something to learn about, what all it is just ask people. Just ask. Sorry.
No,
exactly.
Exactly. And it's great. We should have quadruple this. So we want to talk about how so this that was what I spoke on stage, but then this is an extra kind of bonus section, guys. And I loved what you shared with me, Paul, because I really took a lot out of it, because grit has been something I've talked on for years and years and years since the first time I heard it spoken on as well. And it's just something that I know is something that God has built in me, right? I know I have grit. So why not use that talent that I know he's given me to speak on this to actually share it with others? So how high-performing leaders develop grit. Grit is what you need when the motivation runs out. Because if you're sitting here right now and you're like, I have no idea if I have grit, what are they talking about? Like, I don't know. Have I built that? Do I have that? Do you have something when your motivation runs out? When there's days, and last night, I think it was 9:00 at night for me, My day had just ended with work and everything else and calls and Zooms and the celebration. I hadn't done my 5 over 5. So I didn't have motivation at 9 o'clock at night. My son was home sick. I didn't have motivation. I did it because that's my grit, because my grit inside of me says my discipline needs to be the 5 over 5 if I want to get where I go, to get my expectations to line up with my actions. So that's what grit is. So if you need a definition of what that looks like in your life, that is grit. Grit keeps you going through the struggle. We're all going to be hit with stuff. I think that, a lot of times when you've made a decision, you're going to stuff thrown at you because you've made a decision to change. You've made a decision to not be that same person. You've made a decision your life is going to be different. You're going to act different, talk different. Your bank account's going to look different. You're going to get stuff thrown at you. So when that happens, are you going to cower right away and say, oh my gosh, well, this is why I can't do this. I better stay the same. Or are you going to say, no, I'm going to develop that grit to push through that struggle. So there's 6 steps to grit. Grit with perseverance. So that means that's that NOPO. We talked about that. That's Dr. Doug's no other possible outcome. There is no other possible outcome than the decision and the expectations that you have made for your life. Grit for cognitive control. This is again, control over your emotions, control over your thoughts. Even if there's something crazy going on in your life, if you spiral out of control with your emotions, that is only going to draw more of that into your life. You have to develop that control. Leaders and high-performing leaders have that control over how they react, right? Are you able to calm your tongue in situations where people have said something or done something that is against you? Are you able to stay silent? Are you able, when somebody leaves your team, to call you? That's why we mute you. Are you able to, if somebody leaves your team, do you step up into leadership and say, okay, this is not a bad thing. Let's make this a good thing. Let's all come together and pull together. Or do you spiral and say, oh my gosh, who else is going to leave? How is this going to affect it? Who have they talked to? No, you're going to have control over those emotions. Are you going to be the best even at your worst? And we see those people, and I know those leaders are on here. And I know these are people, and especially Dr. Doug he's perfected this, right? No matter what, I know Dr. Doug is always at his best. I have no idea what could be going on in his life, but he always shows up as the best. I can call him. He's his best. Do you do that all the time? Do you show up as the best? If there's something going on in your personal life, me as a single mom with my kids, if there's something going on in my business or my own personal life, how am I showing up for them? If I take that worst and put it into them, I'm not showing up as my best for them. And so just be conscious of that. Am I my best? Am I my best person? And we talked about this in part 1. Are you acting as if? Are you being as if? Are you being that person who, if that's coming to you, you would be then? So why not be it now? And why not live in that joy and expectation and draw that into your world? Grit to train your weakness. All of us know what our weaknesses are, right? We all know we have them. None of us are perfect. We're all broken in some way. There's something that you struggle with. Train it. It's one thing in this profession, what we have is the amazing ability to lean onto a leader that has the strength where we have our weakness, but how are you training that? And how are you, okay, Paul's strong at this, or Danny's strong at this, or Alan's strong at this. So I'm leaning on them, but how am I learning from them? And how am I putting that in so that next time I don't need to go to them? Because next time I know the comp plan. Next time I know how to teach somebody to get to that rank. Next time I know how to handle it when somebody's, maybe being a problem in my organization. Next time I know how to help somebody if they're struggling personally. I know how to get them to that point of income that's going to help them and keep them focused. Train those weaknesses that you have and you think are going to stick with you. They don't need to. Grit to master your fear. Your fear is the only thing holding you back, and fear does not exist. If you haven't read it yet, read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It will get rid of your fear. I read it every single year. It was a gift to me because I thought that the devil or evil or whatever you want to say, or whatever wants to hold you back, I thought fear had some kind of way of actually changing my life, until you realize that fear actually doesn't, whatever you're fearing doesn't exist. So why are you giving it power in your mind? Worry, fear, anxiety, all of that, the what ifs, you need to develop that grit to be able to just say, nope, that doesn't even exist. Why am I worrying about it? And even if there are some fears that are real, right? There's some physical, health, anything, relationship, your children, anything. There can be fears that are real, but instead of putting the fear into it, put into it a positive. I believe this is going to turn out for the best. I believe that everything happens for my best interest. And I know God's got my back. So I'm not going to lean into the fear. I'm going to give the positivity to that, because what I give gratitude for and what I give blessings to is going to grow. What I give fear to is also going to grow. So just get really good. You have to develop that grit. It's one of the hardest things to do, because everybody is a fearful individual. All of us have fears and worries and all of that creep into our mind. I think probably 90% of the day, that's what can consume our mind. And then the grit to recover. And in this video that Paul had shared with me, he said, it's not your second wind. What is your third, fourth, fifth, sixth wind? What does that look like? You know, that's where you really go into your reserves of who you are and your reserves of what you've built, and those reserves of, okay, I know I've seen Alan do this. They talk about him being 90,000 Alan. So it's possible in this profession to actually develop that. What if I got halfway there, like Paul said? And what if I can do this, like Angel said, okay, I've got my third wind, I've got my fourth wind, I've got my fifth wind. And you just go into that. And that's what you have to do. And that's when you reach out to your leaders and say, hey, this is where I'm at. My mindset's funky. I'm not in a good space today. Alan, you got a second to hop on the phone with me for 5 minutes? I won't take a lot of your time. I just need that little push. And then at the end of this video, he said that grit without flow. So without being in all of these things, step 1 to 6, that is your flow. As you're building those things, you're getting into that flow. When you're in flow, things build. When you're against flow, think of it as going up that river that we talked about last time. You're against the current. You're trying to go against what God wants to put into your life, and you're fighting it because you're trying to control it. So grit without flow equals burnout, and you're just going to burn out. You can't keep on trying to row up against the current. You're not going to get anywhere. But grit in flow is power. I can't see what the last part is. Power and capability. Grit in flow is power and capability. So just know, no matter what you've got in your life, no matter what you're going through, no matter how dark, deep, horrible it feels. And maybe right now you're like, I'm really not going through anything, but I'm not doing anything either. Build that grit right now, because you don't know what's coming. Build that right now so that if something does come against you, you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I really put my nose to the grind. From November 17th on, November 17th, 2023, I decided that I was going to build this, because what if something comes and I'm not ready for it? Wouldn't it be amazing to not have to look back and go, I wish I could have, I wish I would have. So Paul, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this one here?
Ooh, absolutely tons of thoughts. Number one is grit and flow, grit without flow. And you talked about the stream or the river. And you gotta realize that you need to be able to be that leaf on the river flowing down and using that energy with you. I want you to physically visualize you floating downstream with your business. And if you get everybody in your team to do that, have you ever been, I mean, it's really just an excuse to drink beer, but have you ever been on one of those tubing trips where everybody gets the tubes anytime together and then you put the coolers in the tubes and everything? Rochelle, you never done it? We got to do it. You go up to Delaware, we could do it up in Delaware. So if you've never done it, right, everybody's yes, there's going to be always that one straggler person and they're stuck over by the rocks and you got to go get them. But that's what makes it fun. But you got to realize you could build a business the same exact way, and everybody gets in this river and you use the power of the river and the momentum of the river to go. So many of you you find a stream and you want to take this rock. I love when people tell me, oh, I want to build my network marketing business, but do you think I could run newspaper ads or maybe put an ad in a magazine? I'm like, oh, yeah, right? They're like, like just the total opposite of how we build this business. So what they're doing is they're finding this nice flowing stream and they're taking a huge rock and they're dumping in the middle of it. And what you do is now this rock, the water's splashing up against this rock onto the banks. And what do? You make mud. It's a mess. Stop trying to change the course of a river. Put yourself in that river and share in the energy that's coming down there. The other thing is this: willpower fades. You have the biggest time coming up in network marketing, which is January, which is New Year's resolutions. And the two biggest New Year's resolutions are, I want to get healthier or I want to make more money. Everyone on this call has the opportunity to maximize the biggest time in network marketing. And people are going to give up on their New Year's resolutions because they rely solely on willpower, and willpower fades. Okay. I'm doing the carnivore diet right now. You know what the biggest thing on my mind is right now? That I set up a pause for me around Thanksgiving, because I just bought this beautiful wine cooler built into my kitchen, right? I'm dying to crack open a bottle of wine. I'm dying to do that. So my willpower already is fading on this commitment I made to do this carnivore diet and everything else. Willpower will fade. Grit is what's going to get you through there. Focus on the grit. Focus on what's going to keep you going through this whole thing. And remember, the people you're talking to, the people you're signing up in your business, your customers, their willpower will fade. Their commitment to this product, when they tell you, oh my God, I love the product and it's so great, and I mix it with water and I do this and I do that, and they give you a testimonial, and then all of a sudden they're gone. You've all experienced that. You need to teach your customers grit. You are the ultimate personal shopper when you're a network marketing professional, right? Have you ever had a personal shopping experience? Personal shopping experience where you walk into a fancy department store and they take you by the hand and you go in the private room and they're bringing you dresses or bringing you suits and shirts and all this other stuff. But part of that is they're tailoring their sales pitch to you. Right? That's the beauty you have as a professional network marketer, that you can tailor your product selections for your people. You can help them focus and get through. So you need to tell your customer, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to absolutely love my products. You're going to absolutely get results with my products. But in 3 to 4 months, your willpower is going to fade. So let's not talk about now, because everybody's great in the honeymoon period. What I want to talk to you about, dear customer or dear distributor, is the challenges you're going to face 3 months from now or 4 months from now. Let's talk about that. So manage their expectation about the fact that they're going to want to quit on the product that they're absolutely raving about. Does that help?
It does. I think that's perfect. And especially preparing for, when you just said that, you guys just heard, Paul just gave you something right there. Everybody is either wanting to get healthy or making more money. So when you heard him just say that and you're thinking January 1st, that's where people go. Are you waiting until January 1st before you start talking to people that way? Or do you have a preparation plan that you're doing right now? We started with our team. We're starting already. What are we doing over December? What does it look like? What are our groups? What are our challenges? What are our incentives? What blitzes are we doing? We know we need to be in those people's face 6-7 times before on January 1st, they're going to say, oh, I remember that Angel had some sort of product that she was going to share. Or I know that, Angel spoke about making money and, oh man, I've just got hit with this credit card bill. Have that planned. That is grit in your business. That's grit in your team. How are you guys building that so that when you're already ahead of the game before that hits, right? And also, I just wanted to say quick before I go to Alan, this call right here, this isn't just network marketing. This is mindset. This can be added to anybody who's an entrepreneur or sitting in an office. It really doesn't matter. Everybody needs to develop grit. Everybody needs to have some sort of grit that is helping them to get to that next level in their life. Or maybe people just haven't heard this. So if you're talking to people and maybe they're not necessarily even interested in network marketing, hey, I know you're not interested in the business. I know you've said this kind of, building isn't for you and you don't want to be in this profession. That's fine. Just come onto these calls, because one of the reasons I wanted you to get on here is so that I could, show you what our leadership does and how they train them. But the great thing is I can get you in there for free. Just listen to this mindset training, because you're missing out on a massive personal development side of this profession. So it's cool if you don't want to work with me, just listen to these calls. So Alan, I'll go to you with this slide on your thoughts. And I can't believe we're at the hour already. I don't even know where that went.
We are. But so I'm going to keep it short. Grit, that there's an acronym, for grit that stands for guts, resiliency, intensity, and tenacity. And you can Google that and look under images and you'll find that. And I just I'm not going to go into the details for each one, what they talk about. Guts talk about courage and determination, toughness of character, boldness and fortitude and backbone. I can put it in the comments if you need or whatever, but guts, resiliency, intensity, and tenacity. And that's what having grit is all about. because you need this not only in your business, but in your personal life. In your personal life. You don't want to be a settler. You know, we talked about that, I think last week, where, you know, people started out going from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they were in search of gold and diamonds. And you go west, young man, you get rich. And all these big wagon trains started heading west. And along the way, people gave up. They didn't have the guts, the resiliency, the intensity, or tenacity to make it all the way. So they'd say, this looks good here, I'm going to stay here. And when they stayed there, they called those people settlers because they settled for where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got the right guts, resiliency, intensity, or the right grit, guts, resiliency, intensity, and tenacity, you will not give up until you reach your goal. And again, reach out to your mentor, reach out to an upline, reach out to somebody who can get that spark going again in your life. So I'm going to give it back to you, Angel.
I love that. I think that was massive. I just wrote all those down. I had to quickly step away for a second, but that was powerful, Alan. And that really, what you just said, encompasses so much of what we've talked on for both of these parts, right? Bringing both of those together in such a perfect way. We'll do a couple of takeaways. I see Denise here. Denise, you've always got powerful takeaways. What is your takeaway from today?
Well, I came in late, but it didn't matter because there were so many golden nuggets in here. All three of you, I took 4 pages of notes here. You know, I really love the chat about grit because I think it's something that we don't really think about it. You hear people say, oh, that person has grit. What does that mean? I love that you kind of defined it out because it just draws attention to what we need to do. And when it's in the forefront of our mind, we're more apt to do it, to figure it out and crack the code. So good stuff. Thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Danny, your takeaway today.
Well, there's been a lot, but I'm going to give you my definition of grit is doing whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties into the, becoming a David, your Goliath, because you and I have been talking about, this devil, when he knows that you're going to achieve things in life, he will throw stuff at you one after another. And I think you have to be the David to the Goliath of stuff that's thrown at you in life, because, you talk about this is more than just network marketing. It's about life. And that's what I like about, and it's funny. I think, Paul, you were saying it, and I was just thinking about myself, what you guys are teaching here, what we are teaching here can help in your everyday life. And that's what I like about it, because being a David to your Goliath, there's so many things you can, put that into perspective. And in my life, again, I've just started with New Life, and the devil knows I'm going to succeed beyond any expectations. And he's just been throwing stuff at me. And I'm just taking one thing at a time and pushing it aside and moving forward. So to me, grit is, and that's kind of my motto is doing whatever it takes in life to succeed. So there you go. Back to you, Angel.
I love
Hey,
that.
hold on. I just wanted to say one thing. Danny, look, I appreciate it. I know when we started working together, I sent out a whole bunch of free samples. And now that you're a big shot with Mercedes, I'm waiting for my sample to come in of an S550. I don't need the V12. I had the V12. It was a lot of hassle. Just the S550, 8-cylinder is fine. It's fine. I mean, and I don't mind if it has a few miles on it.
No, I'll find you one. Just let me know when you're ready. I'll deliver
I
to your
said
house.
sample. I said samples. So remember, so I said samples.
All right. So what
No,
you're
but
saying
thanks.
anyway.
I don't know if I'm back in the game. I don't know if I'm back in the market.
No, it's all right.
All right, bro. Go ahead. Sorry, Angel. I just wanted to play with Danny a little bit.
No, that's fine. I one thing that Danny said, and one thing that I know that I've learned in my life, and especially since reading that book again, it's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. If you have not read it, go and grab it. One thing I learned after reading that book is that when we talk about the devil, or when we talk about evil forces that try to come against us or stop us once we've made that decision, the less attention you give to whatever comes at you, the more he stops. because he's like, oh my gosh, I can't shake this girl. I can't change the way she's going to think and what she's going to do. I'm going to move on to somebody who I can control. And that is actually truth. We tend to think he's going to come harder at the people who've made a decision and are doing great things. He actually walks away because he knows he can't do anything, right? When that decision and that intent is out there, that you know where you're going and you know what you're doing and you know who you are to the core. So that's why I go back to that slide. Who are you and where are you going? If you truly know that, and that's the energy that you're putting out there, and that's who you're acting like every single day, he doesn't come at you. And believe that. And the more you believe that, and maybe it's because I believe that so much that that's my reality, right? Where I'm like, you don't bother me. What are you going to do to me? I stomp on you, like you're under my feet. You have no power. So I don't give him that power. We're going to go to Misty, and I'd like to hear from Mary Kay and Donna, and then we'll wrap up here. Misty, go ahead. I see your hand up. How are you? Are you able to unmute? I just asked you to unmute if you can. There you go. Hello, beautiful.
Okay, sorry. Hi. I want to thank you all. I had a couple of really big takeaways today. First off, I've been talking with my best friend Bonnie about flow versus everything being a fight and an antagonism, that I'd much rather be in a flow to move forward, and when I meet resistance, to go around. Secondly, as a parent, I think many of you on here will agree, grit is being a parent. It is learning to pivot, to adapt to your child's needs, to get above and go for survival. My Goliath is to figure out how to take my grit towards success instead of just survival. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Love you. Love Bonnie. You guys are doing amazing things. So I love that. Mary Kay, what is your takeaway today? You usually have to leave us earlier, so it's so nice to have you on for a bit longer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh, this was powerful. And it really, my biggest takeaway is stop limiting God. Give him full control, full force, and flow with it. Get in the river with him, rather than thinking I have to stay on the sidelines or close to the shore because I'm scared of the water. I want to just, for a bit of humor, go back to grits versus cream of wheat.
Okay.
I grew up on cream of wheat with sugar and butter and milk on it. I joined the Air Force, went down to basic training. The first meal was breakfast. And I thought, oh, there's cream of wheat. Oh, I took a big bowlful. It was grits. It did not taste the same, and I do not like grits. Just thought I'd add that humor.
I love that.
I didn't think I was going to get such a visceral reaction out of Mary Kay about grits versus cream of wheat, but it's good to see.
That's awesome.
We can definitely tell you're passionate about it. Yeah. I'm a grits person, though. I'm sorry. I hope we can still be friends.
We can.
Mary Kay, when you just said, I love what you said, because you gave an extra element to it, get in the river with God. And when you just said that, I pictured myself getting into like this canoe with God. Not only do I get to hand him the oar, he's going to sit in front of me, he's going to do all the paddling. I pictured myself putting my hands behind my head, putting my feet up while he does all the work, right? Like it's that he wants to have that much control in what we do. And absolutely, I'm going to listen to his direction, and he's going to, get me to steer a little bit and do some things that I need to help out, but it's that much control that he wants to have. So I love that. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's Donna. Donna, would love to hear your takeaway today.
Hello. Wonderful, beautiful information from everyone. And I do want to echo what Mary Kay and Misty were saying about Angel. You talked about take the limits off of God and appoint God the CEO of your business. I truly feel that is just so important to us, because when we are meeting that resistance, we're probably all caught up in our own ego and our own expectations rather than going with the flow and God's plan in our life. Paul mentioned when you don't know what to expect. When we bring somebody into our team, and I'm even speaking from my own self, when I joined this business, I guess I really didn't know what to expect. And, like I joined somebody and I saw their success. So I just thought naturally I would have that success. And you got to have this, personal relationship with who you're bringing in to kind of show them, well, figure out what they want, but then, you know, show them how to get what they want. And also, I love how Paul brought up the soulful synchronicity, because it is really just settling down in your own, you know, giving it up to God and letting things flow. Back to Ed Milet. I'm sorry. I have so many, there's so many beautiful things here. I had a bit of a rough week this week. And last week I had a whole bunch of success. And I called Angel and I'm like, I feel really nervous. Like I'm going to all my greatnesses that is happening, that something's going to go wrong. And we brought up Ed Milet. Literally the same day that I got off the phone with Angel, I listened to Ed Milet has a podcast, and he has a podcast on self-sabotage. And it was just so interesting. This is synchronicity, right? Taking time, allowing to hear God's word. Where is he directing you? He directed me to call Angel. He directs me to text Paul. Always go with the flow and what feels best inside of you, and you know that you will get to where you are meant to be. I'm so grateful for you all.
I love you so much. And that's the thing, is all of those tools are available to us right now, right? Everything that we need that is answer to something that is going on. It's literally in this reality that we can't see, but it's there's a whole shelf of things available. So I love that you went straight to that podcast of his. So that's perfect. I'm going to go one more, Michael Timbury, before Paul, if you have any final thoughts. But Michael, can you unmute and share with us? So great to have you here.
Yes, hi everybody.
How you doing?
I'm just finishing up my work shift. It's my first time coming in on a Zoom Friday, but I appreciate you all. And of course, I've been in the company now 6 years. Still struggling to build my business, so I appreciate everybody, your help. So it was nice to be on here today, and I hope to stay busy and follow up on the tips that you all share. So it was great to, you know, connect with everybody. So
well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing everything.
You bet. Thank you for being here. And every day can be day one, right? It's 6 years or not, right. Is day one.
Right,
So,
right, Angel. All
that's
right.
awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for everything. All right. All right. Stay well, everybody. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
God bless, Michael. Thank you. Actually, I want to do one more. Sven and Anna, this is their second time here with us. And you guys are coming in. Where are you tuning in from? Was it Germany?
No, we're in Cornwall in the UK.
Oh, in the UK. Okay, right. Okay. So good to have you here. I know you work with Alan, but it's so great to have you guys. Would love to hear your takeaway.
Blown away, really. Just thank you from everyone. Like, this was, Alan brought us in at the right time with everything that's been shared here today. I mean, I can be honest, something that I need to work on my own self is the triggers. I trigger so easily with a lot of things in my own personal life. So this is a huge eye opener for me. And, you know, personally, I need to develop myself, building the team and what them to expect when they come in and stuff like that. I mean, I've recruited people recently, myself and Anna, and I can think of that problem right now that I need to address. So, but just everything really, I'm really excited for the future, the people, everyone here, bringing other people here as well to see this greatness that we've got here. But yeah, it's a journey that I'm really excited to be on. It's something I feel that has come along just at the right time.
Perfect. Oh, I love having you guys here. Thanks so much for joining us and for sharing, and can't wait to hear and see the growth and have you join us every week. It's fantastic. Paul, any final thoughts today before we wrap this up late?
Well, Sven and Anna, I'm going to probably be in the UK first, probably around March or April. So, you know, maybe we'll get together for a cup of coffee. I'll be meeting with some people there. So I'd be more than happy to treat you guys to a nice cup of coffee. And you can take me wherever the best fish and chips are, because I'm a fish and chips guy.
Oh,
real
you need
simple.
to come to Cornwall. You need to come to Cornwall then.
Cornwall. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. I'll be all over. So, so here's the deal, guys. You heard what they just said, right? We all have to identify in ourselves what that thing is, and maybe, you know, being triggered is Sven's thing, and then maybe Brenda has something else, and you know, figure out what that is and where you need to do that work. But don't worry about trying to change that weakness into a strength right away. It takes too long. Let's figure out where your strengths are already and work with them, because I hate these people saying, well, what we got to do is we got to take all your weaknesses and turn them into strength. That could take years. Michael, I know you're part of the New Life team. We're here for you. Reach out, plug in, make those changes. 6 years might be good, because 7 years is where a lot of people make that turn. A lot of people in network marketing at the 7th year made that turn. If you identify what your strengths are, speak to your upline and work from those strengths, right? So we all need crutches in our lives, right? When we have a bad foot or we have a bad leg or whatever it may be. So utilize what you have instead of trying to go through all of this life-changing work. So you're trying to build a business, build an income, build a team, have loyalty and a following, and you're going to do all this personal development work. You need to do it simultaneously. So let's stop doing all this heavy lifting. Do your heavy lifting in your business, and then work from your strengths. Find your team. There are people who are great recruiters and horrible trainers and horrible follow-up people. There are people who are amazing follow-up people. There are people who are amazing coaches and trainers and talk people off a ledge. Angel talks me off a bridge probably once a week, okay? And you think that I don't need that? So the point is that you need to figure out, this business is like playing chess. And if you think the pawn is an insignificant piece, you don't understand chess, right? So you need to figure out who your pieces are in your chessboard and work with them. You can win this game with 3 pieces on the board, or you could win this game with all your pieces on the board. So as you're building your team, right, and you have your king, your queen, and then all of a sudden the bishop shows up and a rook shows up, and then the pawn starts showing up, right? You don't have the luxury. The only bad thing about starting in network marketing is you don't have a full set of pieces on your chessboard. Still does not mean you cannot win. Guys, I was brought in on the inside of an inside leg. The director of genealogy for our company literally told me about 1.5 years ago, right, when I was going through some challenges, because we had a meteoric rise in the business, then it kind of fizzled out a little bit, and then we rebuilt it 4 times bigger than we did the first time. And I was told I literally have the worst position in the company. Okay? I'm number 2 in the world. So it does not matter where you're placed, as long as that soil will let you grow. And if you have to amend your own soil, do it. And that's what this call is. We're helping you amend your soil. We're throwing the fertilizer in. We're throwing, whatever we need in to help you grow. Sven, I really got to hand it to you. Your honesty of saying about triggering and everything is real important. That's the first part of your journey. Congratulations on that. That was very, very, very brave of you, because I think a lot of people on here know what their problem is and they're afraid to say it. All right, Angel, thank you so much. I'm just like going today, and you got to pull me back. You got to put handcuffs on me or something, or gag me or something. So.
No, I love it. There's always a reason why we go longer, and it's because there's more to be said and more people that need to hear something. So I appreciate you guys, those of you who stuck it out here with us for almost an extra half an hour here. We'll have the recording out to you guys. If you have anybody who needs to see it, if you're thinking of anybody right now, just reach out to me. I'll get that recording out to you. Bye, guys. I appreciate you so much. Make sure to invite to next week. Don't do what I do and do it at the last minute. Do it before. The last minute. Love you guys. God bless you. Have an amazing weekend. Bye-bye. Thank you, Paul.